Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On September 23, 2025, Trump spoke at the United Nations. Nothing like this had ever happened within the walls of the United Nations in its entire history. Donald J. Trump explained to the United Nations that they are thieves, do nothing, and it's not even clear why they exist at all. The United Nations had never experienced this before. An older, already heavy-set man with yellow hair took the podium and said, "No one needs you, United Nations. You provide no help, but you cost a fortune, and on top of that, you're just a circus. The escalators aren't working, the teleprompter keeps shutting off. I can do even better without it, though. I won't limit myself to what's politically correct." 6 years ago, Donald Trump, stood at this podium and gave a speech about what the United Nations can do for the world. 6 years have passed, but things are still the same. Gentlemen, let me continue. Gentlemen, I'm conveying to you the meaning of what Donald Trump said to the United Nations. He was more elegant, but he scattered it throughout his entire speech. It lasted about 55 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. But I put it all together. Well, now I'll tell you, so to speak, the main idea. One by one, what he was telling, what he was saying, I said, Trump helped resolve several conflicts without military force. While I was not in the White House, the United Nations allowed 2 major bloody wars. I came back and started to break up those fighting in the corners. Not once did I receive an offer from anyone at the United Nations to help with anything at all. Explain to me, what exactly are you, the United Nations, doing? What is it that you do if you don't even try to do what you were actually created for? When I returned to the White House, continued Trump, and started reforms, many of you said that I was plunging my country and the whole world into crisis. In my opinion, inflation in the United States has been stopped, the migration of millions has been halted, low-level wars have been stopped, and money from investors is flowing into our country. And numerous companies are building production facilities here. If this is a crisis, then we're all in for NIBO. Since I came to the Oval Office, Trump foreign companies and countries have committed to $17 trillion in investments in our economy. I think I should pat myself on the back and say, Trump, well done. And what do you think? Which one of you has brought even $1 trillion to your country? Subtitles by Dima Torzak. Do you know why I managed to do it? Because we lowered taxes, we removed hundreds, if not thousands, of restrictions. We lifted hundreds, if not thousands, of restrictions on business, creating an environment for industrial development. Now our country has a favorable climate for industrial development, and workers benefit from this as well. It's not at the workers' expense. Yes, it's on them. No. First of all, they have well-paid jobs and will have many more of them. And secondly, their salaries are increasing. Partly, by the way, because I banned replacing our workers both with illegal immigrants and with specialists brought in from India and China under false pretenses. Subtitles made by Tak. A note from me, ladies and gentlemen, this is no longer Trump speaking. When a programmer brought in from India, for example, is hired, and let's say he's paid $75,000 and he's happy with that, at the same time, an American programmer who was making $150,000 is fired, and the Indian programmer is brought in. They lied, saying they couldn't find anyone in America who could do this job. Well, they lied, yes, we all know that. What happens to the company? It pays less, right? And then let's take a look, as Bastiat said, let's look at what is seen, and then let's look at what is not seen, what is not seen. Next, so first, the person you fired goes on government programs, goes on them. Then we add his family there, because they lost $150,000 a year in income. So we start paying for it. That means everything related to their health care, we give them food stamps. We also cover their education since this person no longer contributes to the fund. He used to pay for his children's education, but now he doesn't pay for education anymore. So what I'm trying to say is, maybe this company did gain something. Yes, although I'm not 100% sure. Well, okay, they gained something, but we, as a country, lost. They cheated the law, they broke the law, and as a result, they won and we lost. That means they stole from us, right? Continuation. Trump puts an end to this first. Now, when an illegal immigrant, let's say an illegal, is washing something, digging something, or taking care of the garden, and let's say Americans paid $25 to $30 for this, but the illegal will get $12, $15, that is half. Would you be happy? You pay less, but now the American who used to get $25 goes on unemployment. To be continued. And you pay $12 an hour to the illegal immigrant, plus at least another $12 an hour to the citizen who's on unemployment. So the result is as follows. For the same amount, or maybe even more, you get an illegal immigrant who doesn't speak English and maybe doesn't know the rules, doesn't know anything at all. Yeah, that's right. Then he who knows nothing brings his whole family. Since he's working, he can afford to rent one room for 8 people. But Trump will prevent that. I told Trump I want to thank San Salvador for providing prisons for criminal illegals. And to you who keep letting in millions of foreign illegals, that's you in Europe. You are destroying your countries, your people, your culture. If you don't care about that, keep going. Very soon the changes will be irreversible. On another topic, the whole world was shouting that Trump was destroying NATO, but I think Trump actually strengthened it. So what did Trump say? Instead of 1 to 2% of their gross turnover, which I don't understand how it could have been enough for their country's defense, it was clearly not enough. And as the war in Ukraine has shown, it was definitely not enough. Now, thanks to me, all countries have pledged 5% of their budgets to the military. Not immediately, not this very second, but gradually, for their own armies, for their own defense. NATO will be a serious global force again in 2 or 3 years. So did I destroy it, or did I strengthen it, or did I revive it? Asked Trump. In my opinion, I revived it. Before I came, said Trump. Hundreds of countries were imposing huge tariffs on American goods, while we in the United States were importing their goods with tariffs. We were letting them develop. As a result, United States citizens were paying higher taxes to protect NATO countries and their right to trade with us. It's over. Much fairer agreements have been signed with the European Union, with Britain, with Japan, with South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, the Philippines, and Malaysia. I don't remember the rest. I'll say for myself that these are all the countries surrounding China that have joined the camp of capitalist sharks and crocodiles. Trade in our system, where agreements will be signed, will be fair for everyone, not just for some and not for others. In January, said Trump, I began working on establishing peace on the planet. The newspapers and television were shouting that I think I'm God. It turned out that you don't have to be God. It's enough to be the President of the United States and have the will. Cambodia and Thailand, the war was stopped. Kosovo and Serbia, Congo and Rwanda, 6 million people died there. Stopped. Pakistan and India had already started shooting at each other. They stopped. I don't know what will happen next. For now, they stopped. Egypt and Ethiopia, they stopped. Armenia and Azerbaijan, they stopped. How many people are left alive, not crippled, not having lost their families, loved ones, friends? Because Trump entered the White House. He said, I'm trying to stop the other wars too, but from all sides I hear that I'm doing something wrong, something not right. This war. And Trump said again, guys, look, if I were president, then you and I wouldn't have been deceived. There wouldn't have been this war. There wouldn't have been these deaths. Think about it. 1 million mothers. Think if Trump had been in the White House at that moment, if he hadn't been deceived, why would you have been so happy then your sons and daughters would be alive and well. Who else in the history of mankind has done something like that? That Trump brought sworn enemies to peace in the blue spots of the globe. Trump said, "I'm the president of the United States, yet I'm trying to save citizens of other countries, while their presidents and prime ministers are trying to kill as many of their own citizens as possible." In my opinion, that's a wonderful statement. Personally, I really liked it. You're right. They're trying to kill as many fellow citizens as they can. Why? God only knows why, does he? Donald Trump said it with such potential and complete impotence. Continuation. Ladies and gentlemen, for many years I have not. Donald Trump said that empty words, even if they sound sweet, will bring nothing to anyone, neither peace nor equality nor happiness. Continuation, only actions. Continuation, actions. Let me give you an example. By the way, let me give you an example. Then I remembered Trump actually gave an example. He said that when he was a developer before he became president, he suggested rebuilding the United Nations building because people had been talking about it for a very long time. He said $500 million brought all blueprints and guaranteed not a single penny, cent, or pound sterling would be exceeded. I don't know, he won't accept it. And would he really bring it here for $500 million? Well, he started to get out of it, I don't know why. Someone else, so to speak, won, not the United Nations, this very contract. And they signed a contract for $2 billion, which is 4 times more than what Trump wanted. With or without the guarantee, $2 billion and no guarantee, eh? They have already spent $4 billion of our money as of today, mainly because you Americans and also Europeans give money to the United Nations. 4 times more. That's 4 times more, $2 billion, so here it's 8, right? Yes, 4 million times 500 will be 8. That's 8 times more than what Trump guaranteed. And on top of that, Trump arrived. Suddenly the escalator stops, he must walk up, and just before his speech they say the teleprompter is broken. In the fixed one, everything shakes and the teleprompter breaks again. Well, thank God it's not Biden there. And so to speak, no one who can't speak can say anything unless it's written down. That's why Trump, instead of the allotted 15 minutes, spoke for, 55 minutes? Right now. Somewhere. It's clear that he put away $3.5 billion somewhere, because, well, if you can do it for $500 million, he's not the only one who can build houses. Many people know how. Another thing is that they want to make some extra money on this and also get a kickback, so to speak, and even earn $500 million and give back $3 billion as a kickback at the United Nations. When Trump asked where that money went, he was told that's how the United Nations works, and there's nothing you can do about it. So Trump said, I want to express my negative attitude toward the idea of building on Israeli territory. For me, the League's 1923 decision still stands. A mandate was given to Israel, a Jewish state was allocated territory. So, on this territory, and Europe is there. I think the other 142 states plan to build another Arab state. This will not stop, but will intensify the war or restore wars in the Middle East. The problem needs to be solved, as Trump said, not with empty slogans. I said Trump tried to solve the war in Ukraine. I thought that I had a good relationship and understanding with Putin, and that stopping this war wouldn't be difficult. It turned out that there were surprises waiting for me on both sides. He didn't say what the surprises were. But this war has shattered the myth about the strong Russian army. Editor. And then Trump says, I asked myself who is funding this war, and immediately found the answer, China and India, China, India. Russia sells cheap oil and gas at lower prices to attract buyers. They are ready to give Russia resources for this, to kill Ukrainians, as many as they can kill Ukrainians. So, some are dying while others, are profiting from it. It's interesting that European countries, knowing this, bought Russian products through intermediaries, not directly. No, we won't buy from them directly, but we'll buy through the back door, yes. So by buying Russian oil products through intermediaries, they funded both sides of the war, giving similar amounts to Russia and Ukraine. So they acted like real friends of Zelensky and other Ukrainians as well. Europe insisted the war targeted them, claiming Ukraine was defending our civilization from barbarians, yet they kept providing resources that prolonged the conflict. Wonderful. We are America, said Trump, ready for such sanctions that will really affect Russia. This slaughter will be stopped, but only if Europe takes the first step. If Europe proves that it is truly ready to stop Russia, then we will be together. Trump spoke about the need to stop experiments with biological weapons. One experiment, as he said, called COVID, cost 1 million lives. And the need to protect their countries from the invasion of millions of people from other cultures. In Germany, for example, 50% of prisoners are migrants. In Austria, it's 53%, even though migrants make up less than 10% of the population. But in prisons, 53% of inmates are migrants. In our country, in America, they were let in, or rather admitted, yes. And then 300,000 unaccompanied children were released. Only 300,000 children came, no parents or adults. Kids ranged from 5 to 17, all counted as children. They were led into the United States and handed over to someone. Because you can't just let out what we call a minor, meaning someone young and small just like that. Someone has to sign for them, someone has to take responsibility. 300,000 children went somewhere, disappeared, vanished, and no one knows who signed for them, even though they were supposed to provide all the documents. So basically, officials, either for money or just to get rid of them, were giving children away to whoever came first. And that's why we now find them either as slaves on plantations or as sex slaves in brothels. We won't find many of them, they're long gone. Another topic that Trump touched on was global warming, green energy, and the worldwide catastrophe caused by warming. And it's all the fault of humans. Yes, humans are to blame. We've been deceived for years, as Trump said. They lied and manipulated research results. In the United States, Canada, and Britain, oil can't be extracted, but it can in Venezuela and Russia. As far as I know, we all share the same atmosphere. Who is funding the green movement around the world so that no one competes with those who are pumping oil and gas right now? Ask yourself questions. If you gentlemen of Europe don't stop with migration and the green agenda, goodbye Europe, goodbye old world. Here is Trump, as I mentioned, who spoke for 56 minutes instead of the regulated 15 and did so without reading. Subtitle editor telling what he really wanted to say. Well, let's put it this way, to the world, let's say, yes. Well, most likely I have to disappoint you, ladies and gentlemen. Most likely the world didn't hear. United Nations officials get too much, ACD. Kickbacks, European Union officials. Otherwise, they wouldn't have traded everything for euros. So, switching power plants, switching coal and everything else to Russian gas in order to make gas prices skyrocket. Yeah, that's right. Too many politicians around the world magically become rich very quickly, and suddenly. We're actually lucky, ladies and gentlemen. The United States is turning away from miserable fraudsters onto a path that will become the rebirth of great free America. I think that by the spring of 2026, the economy, salaries, stock markets, and so on will soar, and the party of common sense. We will get an absolute majority in both chambers, and we will be able to carry out the reforms necessary to get out of the clutches of socialism. That's it. Well, that's all, ladies and gentlemen. That was an amazing speech, in my opinion. I'm sure there's already a flood of criticism saying that Trump was bragging, that Trump was lying. They find some mistakes, slips like 27 or 123 lies, falsehoods that he said, and P. That's all. Let's use our own minds to think, not the minds of those who don't care about us at all. Goodbye.